There are moments in life when everything changes in the blink of an eye. 1 second, your world feels stable, secure, then, without warning, the foundation beneath you begins to crack. I never imagined my moment of reckoning would arrive during a routine drive home. I was at the wheel, my wife seated beside me in the passenger seat. Her laughter still lingered in the air, a leftover melody from the corporate gathering we had just attended. It had been one of those well-polished events where people wore their best smiles, sipped expensive cocktails, and pretended office politics didn't exist. The evening had put me in a good mood. At least, it had until a nagging feeling began to creep in. Isabel had been radiant, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, her fitted dress accentuating her every curve. Throughout the night, she had drawn attention effortlessly, the kind of person who could turn any social setting into her stage. That was something I had always admired about her, until tonight. Somewhere between the shared jokes, the clinking of glasses, and the fleeting looks exchanged across the room, I began to notice things I hadn't before. A strange sensation took root in my stomach, an unease I tried to dismiss. I had no reason to doubt her. For 9 years, our marriage had been strong. I trusted her. At least, I thought I did. Then my phone buzzed. Without expecting anything out of the ordinary, I glanced at the screen. The moment I read the message, my entire body stiffened. Does it hurt yet? For words. No sender, no explanation. But something about them sent a cold shiver down my spine. My grip on the phone tightened as I frowned at the message. Everything okay? Isabel's voice was smooth, casual, like any other moment in our lives. I turned to her briefly, searching her expression for any clue, any shift, but she looked just as she had all evening, composed, glowing, utterly unaware. I forced a nod. Yeah, just work. I refocused on the road, but my mind was racing. I didn't recognize the number. Maybe it was a mistake, just a wrong number or some meaningless prank. But something deep inside me whispered otherwise. There was a precision to the message, a weight to those words that didn't feel random. Then, another message appeared. Check your wife's phone, if you have the guts. A wave of nausea rolled through me. My fingers clenched the wheel, my breath steady though my chest felt tight. I knew I had to stay calm. The last thing I wanted was for Isabel to sense my unease. I couldn't let her see the panic that was clawing its way up my throat. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. But my gut told me otherwise. As the silence between us stretched, I found myself watching her more closely. She was scrolling through her phone, her fingers tapping out responses, a small smirk flickering across her lips now and then. The way she held her screen slightly away from my view. Had she always done that? I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid, reading too much and nothing. Then came the third message. She was all over him tonight. You really didn't see it? A slow, suffocating dread settled in my chest. My mouth went dry. The laughter that had filled the car moments ago now felt distant, like it belonged to another version of my life, one that might not even be real anymore. I had two choices. I could ignore this, pretend I never saw the messages, go home, and slip into bed beside my wife as if everything were fine. Or, I could face the truth, though something told me I wouldn't like what I found. The air inside the car had changed. It felt heavier, charged with an unspoken tension I couldn't shake. My fingers ached from gripping the steering wheel too tightly. And still, Isabel scrolled, unaware, or maybe just pretending to be. The messages had planted something inside me, a seed of doubt that was growing by the second. My mind replayed the night's events, piecing together details I had overlooked. The lingering glances, the subtle touches, the way she had laughed a little too hard at a joke I hadn't even caught. I swallowed hard. I had to be smart. If I confronted her now, she'd have time to twist things, to deny everything, to make me feel like I was imagining it. No, I needed proof. My gaze flickered to her phone, resting lightly in her hand, wrapped in its sleek black case. She wasn't the type to be careless, but there was a chance, however small, that whatever I needed to see was still open. Hey, I said, keeping my tone light and casual. Can you check what time my mom's flight lands tomorrow? I think I left the email open on my phone. She turned to me, her expression unreadable. Was that suspicion in her eyes? Guilt? I couldn't tell. You can check later, she said smoothly, slipping her phone into her lap. That was all I needed. If she had nothing to hide, she would have handed me her phone without hesitation. My heart pounded against my ribs, but I forced my breathing to remain steady. I had been right. Something was happening. And now, I had to see for myself. I exhaled a slow breath, keeping my hands steady on the wheel as I navigated the dark, empty roads ahead. My mind was racing, forming a plan, something drastic, something reckless. But I had to wait for the perfect moment. As we pulled into the driveway, Isabel stretched her arms with a small sigh, completely oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. "I need a shower," she murmured, unbuckling her seatbelt. "It was way too hot in there." I gave a small nod, my voice steady despite the chaos in my head. "Yeah, go ahead." She stepped out, her heels clicking softly against the pavement, then disappeared inside. My entire body tensed as I watched her go. This was my opportunity. I sat in the car, waiting, listening. The faint hum of running water confirmed she was in the shower. Moving swiftly and silently, I slipped into the house, my heartbeat pounding like a drum in my ears. In the dim bedroom, my gaze landed on her purse, sitting on the nightstand, unzipped. For a brief second, I hesitated. But only for a second. Reaching inside, my fingers curled around the cold, smooth surface of her phone. I had it. Pressing the screen, I expected the inevitable. It was locked. But I had seen her enter her passcode before, quick and casual, never suspecting I might be watching. I had a good idea of what the numbers could be. My fingers trembled slightly as I entered the code. The screen unlocked. A sharp wave of nausea hit me as I navigated to her messages. I scrolled past the usual exchanges, family, friends, coworkers, until one name made my breath catch. Lucas. My stomach clenched as I tapped the message thread. The words that appeared shattered everything. "Lucas, I couldn't keep my hands off you tonight. Lucas, you drive me insane. Isabel. Isabel, you're so bad." What if he had seen? Lucas, would it really matter? He has no idea. He never will. The words blurred as my vision darkened at the edges. My breathing turned shallow and ragged. My grip tightened around the phone until my knuckles burned white. Lucas, my coworker, the man who had stood beside me all evening, smiling, laughing, shaking my hand as if nothing was wrong. And all the while, my wife, Isabel, the woman I had trusted for nearly 10 years, had been sneaking behind my back with him. Through the walls, I could still hear the muffled rush of water from the shower. She had no idea I knew. Not yet. A choice lay before me. I could close the messages, pretend I never saw them, go to bed, and let her continue her deception. Or I could confront her the moment she stepped out of that shower, demand the truth, force her to explain. But the fury clawing at my insides told me neither option would be enough. No, this needed something more. Something calculated. Standing there in the dim light of our bedroom, I held Isabel's phone like a detonator, each word on the screen a fresh wound. Tonight, she had kissed my cheek, wrapped her arm around mine, laughed at my jokes, all a performance. The real Isabel had been sharing stolen moments, whispers, and something far worse with Lucas. Lucas. Just his name sent another sharp stab of anger through me. I clenched my jaw, forcing my mind to stay clear. I couldn't let emotions take over. Not yet. Not until I had everything I needed. The shower was still running, but I had only minutes, maybe seconds. Taking a deep breath, I scrolled further through the messages. More words, more secrets. Lucas, next time, we won't have to hide. It'll just be us. Isabel, I can't wait. I hate sneaking around. Lucas, soon. Just hold on. A sickening wave twisted my stomach. Soon? What did that mean? My fingers moved faster, scrolling with urgency until I found it. And the moment I did, my entire body went cold. A hotel reservation. For tomorrow. A suite booked in her name. I inhaled sharply, the truth slamming into me like a freight train. Isabel wasn't just cheating. She was planning something bigger. And I was never meant to find out. The sudden silence of the shower shutting off jolted me back to reality. My time was up. Moving quickly, I placed her phone back exactly where I found it, making sure nothing looked disturbed. Then, forcing my breath to steady, I crossed the room and sat on my side of the bed, schooling my expression into something unreadable. My heart hammered so hard it hurt, but I couldn't let her see a single crack. She couldn't suspect a thing. Moments later, Isabel stepped into the bedroom, wrapped in a towel. She smiled. And for the first time, I realized that smile wasn't meant for me. I had seen that exact expression on her face earlier at the event. I had dismissed it then, brushed it off as nothing, a misinterpretation, a flicker of light playing tricks on my mind. But now I knew better. She had been smiling at him. "How was your shower?" I asked, keeping my voice even. She stretched her arms, letting out a contented sigh. Much needed. She moved across the room, her bare feet making soft, rhythmic sounds against the hardwood floor. I observed her closely, noting every subtle shift in her body language, every fleeting glance. Had she always been this emotionally distant, or had I simply been too blind to see it? She climbed into bed beside me, pulling the covers over herself. "You're quiet," she murmured. I forced a small chuckle, attempting to sound casual. "Just tired." She hummed an acknowledgement and reached for her phone. I pretended not to care as she checked her notifications, but I saw it, the flicker of something in her expression. A momentary flash of emotion that disappeared too quickly for me to decipher. Was she waiting for a message from him? Was she disappointed that it hadn't come? My hands curled into fists beneath the covers. I turned onto my side, staring at the ceiling as thoughts raced through my mind. Tomorrow. She had plans to meet him tomorrow. I still had time to stop it before it happened, but how? If I confronted her now, she would deny everything. If I accused her without solid proof, she would turn it back on me, twisting the truth until I looked like the unreasonable one. No, I needed to be patient. I had to let her believe she was getting away with it. I had to witness it myself. Only then could I decide what to do. Beside me, Isabel sighed softly, nestling into her pillow. Within minutes, her breathing slowed, deep and even. She was asleep. Meanwhile, I lay awake, staring into the darkness, feeling as if everything had already slipped through my fingers. But this wasn't over. Not yet. Tomorrow, I would catch her in the act. And when I did, she wouldn't see it coming. Sleep never came. The hours stretched endlessly as I lay in bed, my thoughts tangled in a storm of emotions, rage, sorrow, disbelief. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see were the messages she had sent, the laughter she had shared at the event, and the way Lucas had clapped me on the back, pretending to be a friend, acting as if I were too foolish to notice what was happening. By the time morning arrived, I had made my decision. She wasn't going to walk away from this without consequences. Isabel stirred beside me, stretching her arms lazily before reaching for her phone. I kept my breathing steady, feigning sleep as she unlocked the screen. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I waited. Then, a soft vibration. A message. She shifted slightly, the glow from her phone illuminating her face in the dim morning light. Even in that faint brightness, I could see the faint smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. She wasn't texting me. I forced myself to remain still, to continue playing the role of the oblivious husband. A few minutes later, she slipped out of bed, her movements careful, as though she feared waking me. The bathroom door clicked shut, followed by the sound of running water from the shower. This was my chance. I opened my eyes and reached for her phone, hoping she had been careless enough to leave it unlocked. My pulse quickened as I tilted the screen toward me, locked. Of course. But I didn't need her messages anymore. I already knew where she was going. The hotel. She thought she was being discreet, meeting him in the middle of the day, as if it were just an ordinary outing. But she had no idea that I was already ahead of her. I had to get there before she did. Isabel emerged from the bathroom a few minutes later, wrapped in a towel, steam clinging to her skin. She gave me a small smile. "Morning." I rubbed my eyes, pretending to wake up slowly. I let out a yawn before responding. "Morning." She pulled open the closet, casually sifting through her clothes as though today were no different from any other. "What's your plan for the day?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Oh, nothing much," she said, glancing at me briefly over her shoulder. "Just some errands. Maybe grabbing a coffee with Liz." Liz. Her friend. Her convenient excuse. I nodded, swallowing the bitterness rising in my throat. "Sounds nice." She returned my nod with a smile, one filled with deception, before continuing to get dressed. 30 minutes later, she kissed my cheek, the gesture so effortless it almost made me question everything. Almost. "I'll be back later," she said, grabbing her purse. "Love you." The words hit like a slap. I watched her walk out the door, listened as her heels clicked against the pavement, heard the car engine roar to life. And then, silence. My hands clenched at my sides. This ended today. I arrived at the hotel before her. It was the kind of place meant for discretion, upscale, refined, catering to those who didn't want to be noticed. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. At exactly 11:15, she arrived. Isabel stepped out of her car, wearing a dress I had never seen before. It was tight, low-cut, designed to attract attention. Designed for someone else. She pulled out her phone and quickly tapped out a message. My stomach lurched as I spotted him just moments later. Lucas. He exited his car with an air of confidence, moving without hesitation. There was no guilt in his posture, no sense of secrecy or fear of being caught. He truly believed I was clueless. They met near the entrance. She tilted her head up at him with a smile, and he leaned in, whispering something into her ear. Her laughter rang out, light and familiar, as she touched his arm, the way she used to touch mine. I gritted my teeth, my vision narrowing. They vanished into the hotel lobby, leaving me sitting there, forcing myself to steady my breathing. I took a moment, then finally stepped out of the car. This wasn't about reckless fury or impulsive decisions. No, this needed to be done carefully. Keeping a safe distance, I entered the hotel and observed as they approached the elevator. The doors slid open, and they stepped inside together. Just as they turned, just as Isabel reached for Lucas's hand, her gaze locked onto mine. The color drained from her face instantly. She went rigid, her fingers slipping from his grasp. Lucas, oblivious to the shift in her demeanor, pressed the button for their floor, completely unaware that everything had just changed. That I had changed everything. The doors slid shut. But it was too late. She knew. And she understood that I wasn't going to let this go. In that split second our eyes met, I saw it. The flicker of panic, the moment of realization, the sheer dread crashing over her. Isabel knew she had been caught. But before she could react, the elevator doors sealed her in with Lucas. I stood frozen in place, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. The cool air of the hotel lobby did little to calm the fire surging inside me. I could have stormed to the front desk, demanded their room number, caused a scene right then and there. But that wasn't how I wanted this to unfold. No, I needed to see it. I walked toward the reception desk, carefully composing my expression. The young woman behind the counter barely lifted her gaze as she greeted me. "Welcome to the Covington Suites. Are you checking in?" I forced a polite smile. Actually, my wife just went upstairs, but I forgot the room number. Isabel, blonde, wearing a red dress. Her fingers tapped against the keyboard. Then she hesitated, glancing at me. "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't give out room numbers for guest privacy." I exhaled lightly, feigning amusement. Of course. Hotel policy, I understand. Could I at least send something up to the room? A little surprise. That made her pause. "That's doable," she said slowly. "What would you like sent?" Reaching into my wallet, I casually slid a crisp bill onto the counter. "A bottle of champagne," I said, lowering my voice slightly. "And, if possible, could you confirm which suite it's going to? Just so I know it reaches the right place." She hesitated once more, then checked the screen again. "Suite 1109, she murmured. My jaw tightened. "Perfect," I said smoothly before walking away. I didn't take the elevator. I took the stairs. 11 flights. My legs burned. My breaths came in sharp, controlled exhales, but I didn't stop. This was it. On the 11th floor, I stopped at the far end of the hallway, my eyes locked on the door. Suite 1109. Muffled voices carried through the walls, laughter. I ran a hand over my face, grounding myself. I was shaking, but not from fear. Not from sorrow. No, I needed to keep control. I needed proof. Pulling out my phone, I started recording. Slowly, I stepped closer, pressing my ear against the door. Then I heard her. Soft. Low. Intimate. A tone I hadn't heard in years. "You shouldn't have kissed me in the lobby," she giggled. Lucas's voice followed, deep and unbothered. I couldn't help myself. "You're irresistible." A silence stretched between them. Then, a quiet moan. My teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached. My hands trembled, not with fear, not with sadness, but with something colder. A betrayal so deep it sent a shock through my system, forcing me to accept the truth unraveling before me. I kept recording, capturing every whisper, every touch, every sound. This wasn't just for me. This would destroy her. Standing outside that door, my phone preserved every damning second. Every breath, every laugh, every confirmation of her deceit. The ache in my chest had evolved beyond heartbreak. It had turned into something else. Something sharper. I had given Isabel everything. My love. My trust. My loyalty. And here she was, tangled in sheets that weren't ours, surrendering herself to a man who wasn't me. I had enough proof. I could walk away now, file for divorce, and bring her world crumbling down with just a few clicks. But I wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. She needed to know exactly how badly she had failed. My fingers hovered over the door handle. I wasn't going to barge in, wasn't going to throw punches or shout accusations. That would be too simple. I wanted something more. I wanted to see it. The instant she realized that her perfect little lie had shattered. I knocked. The noise inside ceased immediately. A second passed. Then another. "Room service," I called out, my voice steady. I heard frantic shuffling, hurried whispers, the telltale sounds of panic. A soft, cautious voice responded, "Just a second." I remained still, listening. I could picture her right now, pressing a finger to Lucas's lips, hurriedly smoothing her hair, adjusting her dress, trying to make presentable what could never be hidden. The door cracked open slightly. Isabel's face appeared, her blue eyes wide, her lips slightly parted. For just a fraction of a second, she didn't recognize me. She thought I was housekeeping. Then, as realization hit, her entire body stiffened. Her pupils dilated. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. I tilted my head slightly, allowing the smallest, coldest smile to form. "Surprise," I murmured. The color drained from her face. I pushed the door open effortlessly. Isabel hadn't locked it properly in her rush to greet me. Inside, Lucas stood near the bed, shirtless, his smug expression frozen in shock. Isabel spun around, her hands trembling, scrambling for an explanation that refused to form. "Wait, this isn't what it looks like," she stammered. A laugh escaped me, an actual, bitter laugh. "Not what it looks like?" I stepped inside, deliberately taking my time. "Then tell me, what exactly is it?" Her mouth opened, but no words followed. Lucas cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably. "Look, man." My sharp glare cut him off instantly. Silence fell. Then, without a word, I pulled out my phone and pressed play. The recording of their betrayal filled the room. Isabel's breath hitched, horror and shame battling for control over her expression. Lucas ran a hand over his mouth, exhaling sharply. "Damn." I turned to Isabel, my voice steady, but laced with something colder. "How long?" She blinked rapidly. "What? How long?" I repeated, my tone unshaken, unyielding. "How long have you been sneaking around with him behind my back?" Her hands clenched into fists. It's not." "Don't lie." A shaky breath left her lips. Then, almost in a whisper, "A few months." I nodded slowly, letting those words sink deep, twisting the knife further into my chest. "Months." Lucas lowered his gaze, suddenly finding the floor far more interesting. I let the silence hang between us, stretching the weight of her confession into the air. Then, a quiet chuckle escaped me. I shook my head. "You really thought you'd get away with this?" Isabel hesitated, lips pressing together. "It just happened. We never meant to it. You booked a hotel, Isabel." My voice dropped lower. "You meant every part of it." Tears welled in her eyes. Fake tears. I used to believe them. Not anymore. Sliding my phone back into my pocket, I exhaled deeply. "You know what? I'm not even mad." Her eyes widened slightly. "You're not." I smiled, though it wasn't for her. "No," I said simply. "Because I'm done with you." The finality in my voice made her flinch. I turned to Lucas, who looked like he wanted to disappear. "You two enjoy yourselves," I said, making my way to the door. Isabel took an unsteady step forward. "Wait, please." I paused in the doorway. Then, without looking back, I delivered the final blow. "I'll be sending the divorce papers tonight." Her sharp inhale filled the silence. What?" I smirked. "Check your phone." A gasp. Oh my God. I had sent the recording to everyone we knew. I didn't turn around, not when she gasped, not when Lucas muttered a curse under his breath, not even when I heard the frantic rustling behind me as she scrambled for her phone, desperate to confirm what I had done. I walked down the hotel hallway with a steady stride, my heart pounding in my chest, but my mind clearer than it had been in months. No more second-guessing. No more doubts. I was free. The elevator doors slid open, and I stepped inside, leaning against the cool metal walls. My reflection stared back at me from the mirrored panel, hardened, unrecognizable. A man who had just walked through war and survived. As the doors closed, Isabel's muffled voice rose from down the hall, laced with panic. "Oh my God. He actually sent it. Lucas, he sent it to everyone." Lucas's response was lower, irritated. "Calm down. We'll figure this out." I smirked as the elevator began its descent. "No, Lucas. You won't." The first wave of notifications hit my phone before I even reached the lobby. My plan had been simple: gather evidence. Expose the truth. Walk away. No violence. No destruction. No unnecessary drama, just cold, undeniable proof. And it had worked. As I stepped through the glass doors of the hotel, breathing in the crisp afternoon air, my phone vibrated relentlessly, calls, texts, unread messages piling up. The first one was from my brother. "Derek, dude. What the hell is this?" Then my best friend, Ryan. "Ryan, tell me this isn't real." And finally, the message that made my stomach drop. Her mother. "Patricia, I don't even have words. Call me. Now." I clenched my jaw and pocketed my phone. "No rush. Let them all stew in it. Isabel had spent months, maybe years, lying to me. Now, for the first time, she had to face the consequences. The fallout. By the time I reached home, the situation had completely unraveled. Friends, family, even mutual coworkers had seen the messages, heard the recording. And Isabel? She was drowning in the wreckage. I had barely set my keys down when my phone rang again. Her. I let it ring. Then, a voicemail. For a moment, I hesitated before pressing play. Her voice trembled through the speaker, shaken, desperate. Please, listen. I know you're hurt, but you didn't have to do this. I made a mistake. But we can talk. We can fix this. I love you. I scoffed, shaking my head. Love? That word meant nothing coming from her lips. Another call. Another voicemail. This time, there was a noticeable tremor in her voice, something much closer to fear. You don't understand what you've done, she pleaded. My parents saw this. My boss. A sharp, shaky inhale. Please. Call me back. Don't do this to me. Don't ruin me. But I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She had deleted it, but not because she felt any remorse. She wasn't crying out of guilt. She was crying because she had been exposed. And I wasn't about to be the one to save her. Sinking onto the couch, I finally let myself breathe. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, my home truly felt like mine again. The suffocating weight of deception was gone. The endless tension that gripped my stomach every time she glanced at her phone had vanished. There was only one last step to sever this connection completely. Reaching for my laptop, I pulled up an email draft I had prepared earlier. The divorce papers were attached, sitting there, waiting. A clean break. A definitive ending. My finger hovered over the send button for just a moment as I allowed myself one final reflection. Did I feel regret? No. Did it hurt? Without a doubt. But beneath the pain, something unexpected stirred. Relief. A quiet, freeing kind of relief. With a single click, the message was sent. And just like that, Isabel was no longer a part of my life. The moment the email left my outbox, a strange sensation settled over me. Peace. It had been so long since I had felt anything close to it. No more deception. No more uncertainty. No more waking up beside someone whose true self I had been forced to question daily. Isabel had lost the right to be in my world. And now, I was free. As the evening unfolded, my phone buzzed nonstop. Messages poured in, some from friends, some from colleagues, and even a few from her family. The reactions varied. Shock, outrage, and, to my surprise, even support. Ryan, man, I had a feeling something wasn't right, but I never imagined this. You made the right call. You deserve better. Derek, proud of you, bro, seriously. Most guys would have kept making excuses. You handled this like a champ. Even her mother, after what I assumed was her initial anger, sent another message. Patricia, I don't know what to say. I raised her better than this. I'm sorry, truly. If you ever need anything, please don't hesitate. That one caught me off guard. But I didn't dwell on it. This wasn't about earning anyone's approval. It was about reclaiming my life. The days that followed felt strangely unreal. The house was quieter, emptier, but not in a way that made me feel lonely. Instead, there was an unfamiliar sense of ease. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I wasn't checking her phone, analyzing her words, or trying to make sense of the constant unease. That chapter was closed. I threw myself into work, into the gym, into reconnecting with people I had slowly lost touch with over the years. And it felt good. Better than I had anticipated. A week after that night at the hotel, Ryan convinced me to go out for drinks. At first, I hesitated, but then I thought, why not? This was the start of something new, and I had every reason to embrace it. And that's when I met Sophia. She wasn't like Isabel. She didn't command attention with forced charm, didn't turn conversations into carefully crafted performances. She was genuine. We talked for hours, swapping stories, laughing over shared experiences, realizing that neither of us had ended up where we once thought we'd be in life. And for the first time in ages, Isabel wasn't on my mind. There was no bitterness, no anger, just the realization that I was ready to move forward. As the night came to an end, Sophia gave me a smile, one meant just for me. And this time, I didn't hesitate. I smiled back. Because my story wasn't over. It was just beginning.